Hosmer here. I'm speaking on Nevada Shared Stewardship. I was actually just going back recently and looked, and I found that we started this process for Nevada just a little over a year ago. So it was actually in September of 2019 that we started having our first meetings about shared stewardship. And really the impetus of that, as a Forest Service program came from our state liaison, Sheva Gabor, who is just fantastic and really, so much of what we've been able to accomplish has been from her ability to convene people and get conversations going and move people in the right direction. So it's really thanks to her that we were able to do so much with this. So a little background on Nevada, why shared stewardship is so important and what makes it kind of unique for us. So we are the state with the greatest percentage of federally managed land. It's between 80 or 84%, depending on how you count things. And primarily that is BLM. So if you can look in this image, all of the yellow, the light yellow and the dark yellow is BLM. Green is Forest Service. We have some fish and wildlife refuges. And then there's also a lot of military land, tribal land. And if you see this, I don't know if you can see my mouse, my cursor, but this section up here of the kind of gray hash mark, that is from the railroad. And so that is actually what's called the checkerboard situation, where you have allotment, or essentially every other parcel is federal or state land. So very, very complicated jurisdiction. We have a lot of areas where you have multiple land managers right bordering against each other. And so the consequence of that is that when we have these resource projects, or when we have fires, when we have things, impacting the land, it becomes very difficult to make those coordinated decisions and make really strategic plans, because we have to be doing things in light of what all of the other land managers are doing. The second other bit of background, we are the driest state in the nation. We get the least precipitation. Arizona sometimes challenges us on this, but I think it's pretty robust. And so that does lead to consequences in terms of our ability to manage our resources. Just because with such low precipitation, that means that the margins are very, very slim. And then in terms of the historic management in Nevada, obviously, as a lot of Western states, we were settled in terms of ranching and in terms of development for mining, for recreation. And so what you get is these very unique historical consequences of where a boundary was drawn, or what manager was in charge of what area. And so this is an image that I'm stealing from a BLM presentation that we just had recently of two allotments in the Winnemucca district, or excuse me, the Elko district of the BLM. And so what you can see here is there is that fence line, and those two allotments were historically grazed differently. The Oahe allotment much more heavily grazed, and that was probably 60, 80, 100 years ago. But as a consequence of those historical decisions and those boundary lines, we can still see on the land currently what are the consequences of that. And so this is a picture from after the Martin fire, and we can see that there was much more substantial damage done on the Oahe allotment, and that's believed to be because that was a more heavily historically grazed allotment. And so you can see the consequences of those management decisions and jurisdictional boundaries showing up on the landscape. And so that's something that through shared stewardship, what we really were trying to get across is that decisions need to be made so that all of the land managers' values are incorporated, so that if someone is on the left side of the fence, they're making decisions knowing that the decision they make is going to be beneficial for or informed by the values of the land manager on the other side. Because as Aaron rightly pointed out, fire doesn't care about these boundaries. Fire is going to continue going regardless of who the jurisdictional manager is. And so that is a situation where we really wanted our planning and our management actions to be informed by a broader perspective of where those values are. So just getting back to sort of the complex jurisdictions, and again, thank you BLM for these fantastic graphics. So this is the margin fire. Again, this is in 2018, not really presenting this for the the work that's being done, though they are doing really great rehabilitational work. But what you can see, that red outline is the fire outline. And then in the yellow, light yellow, that is BLM jurisdiction. The green over to the upper left, that's Forest Service. And then you have all of the white private inholdings. And so I just have this slide in here to demonstrate how complex some of those borders can be and how difficult it is to make a strategic decision about these landscape scale improvements or restorations, because it has to be done informed by all of the different jurisdictions and making sure that those are incorporated in the planning process. So that sort of gets to the specific motivations for Nevada and why it has to be done. This image I like. This is a fire history of Nevada, so you can see really where in the last 100 years the most significant fires have been. Why shared stewardship was so beneficial for us and why we were so engaged and interested in it when it did, when we did get it presented with us, is the value that it had in terms of the early coordination. So one thing that we did very much from the beginning is that we knew that this could not just be a Forest Service and state of Nevada agreement, because so much of the land of Nevada is managed by BLM, and so much of the threats are to these kind of jurisdictional intersections. So it was really important that from the beginning we had coordination between all of the different state actors, federal actors as well. So from the, I believe the very first meeting in September, we had representations from BLM, we had Forest Service, we had Fish and Wildlife, we had state state forestry, excuse me, state wildlife, and state agriculture, because also, a lot of these private holders, it is ranching allotments. And so being able to get their input early on, we thought would be very valuable for us in terms of actually helping to inform management decisions. The second thing that we benefited from as not the first shared stewardship agreement, first shared stewardship state, is we did have flexibility. We knew that things change, priorities change, and so one of the things that we were able to do after the signing of the agreement is we went back and realized that NRCS, the National Resources Conservation Services, they were a needed partner. They had a lot of touch points to private landholders and allotment holders, and so we realized that they needed to be part of the solution. And so we went back, re-engaged with them, and added them as a member to the executive committee so that we could have their input from the very beginning. And then the other thing that we were really excited about when Sheva and the rest of the Forest Service team brought it out was some of the technological tools that were being used, the data gathering and the value of that to the decision process. And so what that actually led to, excuse me, is we were able to use the Forest Service's ArcGIS platform to build this shared stewardship priority landscape viewer and collect information using a standardized decision process. So we broke up the whole state into those HUCs, hydrological units, and then we collected agency priorities. And so what we did initially is we had two categories of wildland-urban interface and then wildland fires. And so we collected for these HUCs the different agencies' priority decisions. So, what does Nevada Department of Wildlife have concerns about? Where are their projects going in? And so we use this ArcGIS platform to collect just a whole range of information, both in terms of kind of the reality on the ground in terms of where projects are being done currently, where wildfires were, where we had identified information already in terms of where the risks were and the values were. And so we collected all of that into this ArcGIS platform so that we were able to see, where do those values kind of overlap. And so it's a little hard, excuse me again, it's a little hard to tell from this image because of just the colors that were picked. But the darker the red or the blue, that means the more agencies selected that HUC as a priority. And part of what was done also that you can't see here, but is demonstrated on the back end is we all listed what those priorities were. So was this priority area because of its nexus for Lahontan cutthroat trout, the injured species? Was it a priority because it was seen as needed to create fire breaks, fuel breaks, etc.? And so all of that information lives on this database so that we can go back and kind of have that there to inform the decision-making process. And one of the things we really tried to accomplish here was so that other agencies would be able to use all of these values to inform their planning process and inform their decision-making process. Because what we really wanted to get at was that, maybe this project isn't top priority for the Forest Service, but the consequence of that project could have some critical improvement for Fish and Wildlife Service values. And so having this information collated in such a way, we're hoping is going to help inform the decision and the planning process so that when all of our individual agencies are making choices about what projects to put money on and what actual management actions to take, they're going to be making those decisions not in a vacuum, not in terms of just what their priorities are and what their plans are, but what the other agencies are, so that way, not only will hopefully someone maybe take an action that is not their top priority because they know it's valuable for everyone else, but also it'll inform their decision-making process to know what other agencies are doing so that, they're not replicating effort or they're not, making choices that are not strategic. So going forward, this is another view on that ArcGIS platform. And so this is a little clearer to see. And what this does is it gets darker with the number of agencies that picked that HUC as a priority. So the darkest areas are the ones with the most agencies choosing that HUC. And so as a result of this process, we did end up selecting 2 landscapes as our priority focuses, and that is the Elko Spring Creek Lamoille. And so this is that area up in the northeast of the state where it's very dark. There have been some significant fires there, and it is also one of the more challenging WUI areas. And then the second landscape we chose is down by Las Vegas. That's the Spring Creek, Mount Charleston area. And you can see it's not that we picked just unambiguously the one that had the most first choices, because there are other values that are not necessarily captured just by what everyone picked. And those are, of course, the values that in terms of the potential risk. So Spring Creek, Charleston has potential for really catastrophic fires. And actually we saw this fire season, a couple fires that were threatening down there to have very catastrophic negative consequences. But luckily, initial attack was good. And so we've been really blessed not to a tremendously bad fire season. But so those are the two landscapes that we were able to pick as a result of this coordination. And then the plan is to develop a more kind of comprehensive plan in terms of how we can use this shared stewardship framework to inform the planning decision for all of these agencies going forward.